Elon Musk's DOGE program just found over $87 billion of waste and fraud in just 1 week. Thousands of paychecks sent to dead people, billions of dollars funneled into luxury hotels to house migrants, and thousands of government records kept in multi-million-dollar limestone caves since the 50s. And that is just the tip of the iceberg. Bureaucrats are panicking about all this stuff, and maybe rightly so. But what exactly is Elon Musk's endgame here? Let's dive into it. All right, so everyone is panicking about DOGE in a good way and maybe a bad way if you're one of the people who's likely going to lose your job over all the cost cutting that's been going on in the US government. But for those of you who haven't been following this story, DOGE was a program that was incepted by Elon Musk about a couple months ago while Trump was campaigning, and it was all about cutting out government waste. They have found in just 3 weeks some of the most extraordinary stuff that I feel most of us already knew was happening in the government, but we didn't know the specific details and the amount, the millions and billions of dollars being wasted on this. And as this stuff is being turned up, the mainstream media is going in full swing to discredit Elon, calling him a dictator, calling him a shadow president. But I think most of us, who pay taxes are just happy to know a little bit more about where our tax money is going. I think Elon posted this video about a day ago, and it's a perfect summary of what exactly is going on.
Have you been crying like a bitch over Elon Musk? Do you find yourself sobbing at the thought of your taxpayer-funded transgender basket weaving club losing its funding? You may be suffering from a common condition known as libtardism-induced meltdown. But don't worry, there's help. Introducing Grow-A-Pair, the revolutionary prescription solution designed to help you accept reality. With just 1 dose a day.
Honestly, it's kind of hard to tell what part of these jokes are fiction and what are fact at this point. The amount of money that has been funneled into other countries for completely miscellaneous projects is astounding. And it's actually kind of sad. We'll get to it later in the video about how much, some of the programs, the very real helpful programs in the United States have had to be cut because of the lack of federal funding, while billions of dollars are going towards these insane programs.
After taking Grow-A-Pair, you may notice life-changing improvements, such as smaller man boobs, the ability to fund your own transgender basket weaving without relying on Uncle Sam, and a newfound indifference to the defunding of the U.S. Department of Slope Sidewalk Studies.
And sloped roof studies too. What is going on with that stuff? We still haven't heard anything about the Trump assassin after all this time. It's insane.
Grow-A-Pair won't solve all your problems, but it can help you stop fixating on who's going to pay for DEI pudding packs in Cambodia.
Side effects may include dry mouth, increased common sense, employment, smaller man boobs, and lower taxes.
Ask your doctor if Grow-A-Pair is right for you, because adulting is hard, but it doesn't have to be.
One of the things I actually thought about, and it's kind of like maybe a deeper subject from watching this video, is that I think a lot of countries who have been getting US foreign aid are going to have some very severe currency crises after DOGE is done with all this stuff. I think there's bipartisan support to cut off a lot of funding to some of these countries for development projects that, would otherwise not exist or maybe have to be funded by these foreign governments. The people are going to be thinking, hey, where's the money for these projects? Where's all the stuff that we were getting? It's going to cause a lot of turmoil. I think this DOGE program is going to have a lot of downstream effects in other countries, democracies and currencies as well. Here we go. Musk's financial interests depend on the US economy being healthy, and the waste, fraud, and abuse are bad for the economy. Musk's attempting to right the ship for the US federal government is an indirect way to improve his own finances. Incentive alignment matters. So there's a lot of conversation about how Elon is actually going in and curating all these government contracts because maybe it might help him with his own enterprises. I don't think the guy needs any more money. I think the guy just creates good products and the government uses them. There's a reason that NASA hasn't been able to fire rockets into space and land them on their own. Back to the DOGE stuff. This one was a shocker for me this week. So Elon Musk said that there is a literal limestone mine where all of the US government's retirement records are stored that has been in maintenance since 1950. I couldn't believe this one, but there are actual photos I'll show at the end of this clip. It's unbelievable.
And then we were told, this is actually, I think, a great anecdote, because we were told the most number of people that could retire possibly in a month is 10,000. We're like, whoa, why is that? Well, because all the retirement paperwork is manual on paper. It's manually calculated, then written down on a piece of paper. Then it goes down a mine. And like, what do you mean a mine? Like, yeah, there's a limestone mine where we store all the retirement paperwork. And you look at a picture of this mine. We'll post some pictures afterwards.
Isn't it kind of insane that the government is okay with putting retirement records that eventually equate down the line to tens of thousands of dollars of or millions of dollars of Social Security payments on paper, but getting paper ballots is too difficult of a thing to do in the United States? It's insane. I personally don't think that, paper anything is the future. You can do one, but you can't do the other. That's insane to me.
And this mine looks like something out of the 50s because it was started in 1955. So it looks like it's like a time warp. And then the speed, the limiting factor is the speed at which the mine shaft elevator can move determines how many people can retire from the federal government. And the elevator breaks down sometimes, and then nobody can retire. Doesn't that sound crazy? There's like 1,000 people that work on this. So I think if we take those people and say, like, you know what, instead of working in a mine shaft and carrying manila envelopes to, boxes in a mine shaft, you could do practically anything else, and you would add to the goods and services of the United States in a more useful way.
Yeah, and this is the really important thing that I think is going to come out of DOGE. I think right now, 2 to 5% of all Americans work either for a federal or a state level government. They're an employee of the government. If DOGE goes according to plan, you're going to have a flood of people that are sent out onto, the private market to find a new position, a new job. But I wonder, all the people that work these government jobs, are any of those new areas of employment even applicable to them? Like, what type of training do you need to go from a government office job to get into manufacturing? Would you even do that job? I think the entire shape of the US economy probably going to change pretty radically over the next 2 to 3 years. Oh yeah, and check this out. These are actually some of the photos of the limestone mines. This is Iron Mountain, where some of these things are stowed here. So the DOGE department wrote, federal employee retirements are processed using paper by hand in an old limestone mine in Pennsylvania. 700 plus mine workers operate 230 feet underground to process 10,000 applications per month, which are stored in manila envelopes and cardboard boxes. The retirement process takes a couple of months. Jesus Christ, it's real. We have a bureaucratic Gringotts hidden in a limestone mine. Running this mine costs $38 million per year on salaries alone. That is insane. Look at all these salaries here. Office of Personnel Management, $200,000, $183,000, $183,000. My God, these limestone operators are making multiple times more than what we make creating videos on this channel. I think this is a parody comment. I just got fired from my job at the U.S. Federal Retirement Storage Facility in the limestone mine. I was the elevator operator, the only way to go up or down to store the retirement forms. I have no way to support myself or my family. This is the reality of Trump's America. This is obviously a joke, but I mean, there's a bit of truth to this. Like, where are the limestone operators? Where are the folder movers? Where are all these people that have had their comfy jobs for 15, 20 years, hidden deep in these bureaucracies? What are they gonna do next? In the next 6 months, you're gonna see the unemployment rates spike, I think, really dramatically because of this. I don't think that the economic gains that Trump is promising are likely gonna come in the next, year or two. But I think the layoffs, the excess from all the government jobs, you're going to feel that really soon. All right, so the last few were kind of fun and games here. There's a lot of just ridiculous stuff that's being discovered by DOGE, but there's some really serious stuff here too. And it goes into the fraud and kind of abuse category of all the stuff that DOGE is kind of uncovering. So the luxury hotel, the Roosevelt Hotel in New York, that FEMA allocated $59 million per week to house illegal migrants. Now, the craziest thing about this whole story is that this hotel is not even owned by American citizens. It's actually owned by investors, or I believe the government of Pakistan. The post here is that the hotel was on the verge of closing before Biden took office. Shortly after his administration opened the borders to illegal migrants, the hotel was repurposed as a migrant shelter. New York is paying $220 million to rent the entire hotel for housing illegal migrants. The deal is part of a $1.1 billion IMF bailout package aimed at preventing Pakistan from defaulting on its international debt.
I was a side administrator at the Row Hotel. So in the hotel, we have close to 5,000 migrants. If anything involving this hotel, I was helping run it. Everything ranging from doctor's visits to medication is paid for the migrants. Anything you can possibly think of, it's being given to them. Car seats, cribs for newborns. There's, I want to say, at least 2 to 3 babies a week being born at this hotel. The migrants being in those hotels have destroyed them. There's a lot of alcohol in these rooms. Housekeeping is there all week, and they'll clean it, and by the end of the night, there's kids getting drunk together. There's people hooking up with each other. There's multiple guns in these rooms as well. The alarming thing is that this hotel is meant to be a family hotel.
You were actually showing me some text messages between a social worker about a drunk 10-year-old in this hotel. Can you talk to us about what happened there?
Yeah, it was a drunk 10-year-old who was caught with a 14 and a 12-year-old, and all three of them were intoxicated. And when we looked them up in the system, the parents had checked out 2 days ago.
So their parents just left them there?
Yeah, the parents will leave the kids.
Wow. That is unreal. The DOGE stuff funding that is like another layer to this whole story. The fact that this even exists in one of the most wealthy cities on planet Earth is kind of shocking. And the fact that, yeah, taxpayers are paying for this is unbelievable. And who's left to clean up the mess, right? People like the guy in this video, a social worker or someone running, this hotel, have to pay 25 to 40% of their income to the federal government to clean up a problem that they're technically paying for with their tax dollars. Like, if that's not demoralizing, I don't know what is. And you're seeing all these Democrats, and they're kind of missing, the forest for the trees. They're saying, oh, they're going in, they're cutting all these necessary programs. There's so much opportunity here to coalesce around something that I think everybody can say is wrong and terrible and morally vacuous, and there should be punishment for this stuff. It's insane to me that, America, let's just call it as virtuous as it is, puts up with things like that there isn't bipartisan support to go after the people who create these situations and put them in jail. Honestly, this is disgusting.
We heard a security guard start yelling, there's a gun on site, there's a gun on site. It was probably an upset person that we had kicked out of the hotel. I myself have been assaulted. I've seen other people get assaulted. I've had threats saying, we'll be waiting for you guys outside. There's been times where staff has had to be, escorted to their cars, to their trains.
Because the migrants are threatening them.
Yeah, I've been doing this for 5 years. And in my 5 years, this has been the worst experience by far. The city of New York does not know what they're doing, and it's only going to get worse from here.
The craziest thing about this is they went after Trump for setting up, let's just say, these camps, which he didn't really set up, and housing all these migrants together, to eventually be deported. And they thought, well, that was super inhumane. But on the flip side, you have these governments like in New York that are essentially just creating the exact same thing, but in hotels, and then giving these people free money, not requiring them to assimilate into the culture, not giving them a long-term pathway to either becoming citizens or sending them back home, and then just expecting that everything's going to work itself out. And it's super inhumane. And I'm a Canadian, so I'm not funding this stuff, but we have our own version of it here. It's not nearly as bad. We have a different, immigration policy. We're not neighbors with Mexico. But I think the only way forward with this is probably just having a zero tolerance policy on it. Someone wrote, meanwhile, this is what FEMA is doing to U.S. citizens in North Carolina. Yeah, FEMA kicks hurricane survivors out of temporary housing into snowstorms and freezing temperatures. And I don't want to sound too bigoted here. It's kind of interesting to me that a lot of these migrants are going to the most expensive cities in America. You see them go to New York, you see them go to San Francisco. You don't see them go to North Carolina. You don't hear of immigrants who have had their homes destroyed in North Carolina. Those are American citizens that have been completely displaced, and there's no money for them there. You have to kind of relinquish to the fact that we should know about this stuff at the very least. Whether or not we cut it, is one thing, but the people armed with this information that we couldn't get because there was just no willpower to do it with any of the other political parties or leaders. The willpower to get this stuff done is admirable, and I think it's in the best service of everybody who pays taxes in America. I will ask this to you. I think there's a lot of people calling Elon the little dictator. You now have someone, a private citizen, going in and having access to all these files, seeing the inner workings of the government, apparently social security numbers too. Are there any risks to having this centralized figure of Elon going in and checking out all these things? My biggest concern, and again, I'm not American, so maybe I don't have skin in the game. My biggest concern with something like this is the potential for this information to leak out. Now, thankfully, I think Elon has a pretty good track record as it comes to information systems and not having this stuff leak out. But again, you do have 20-something engineers here who might not have a super wealth of experience in designing these new systems and curation systems for the government to find out all this fraud and abuse. And so if any of this stuff gets leaked in a hack, or maybe there's an inside person who wants to put this stuff out there because the security systems aren't in place and they have political motivation, that could be really bad optically for this program. And it could also subject a lot of Americans to privacy risks. I also think one of the policy things that might come out of the whole DOGE system is that we need better surveillance on basically everything. They've already mentioned that every single program should have a digital identity system to kind of like verify to go through. I think that level of surveillance makes sense on a government level. I think, honestly, public servants should be that title, public servants. They shouldn't have all the privileges and freedoms of, I think, regular citizens in a functioning society. I think that's one of the things that you sacrifice if you want this role of power and responsibility is some personal privacy. But I worry sometimes that some of the systems that get implemented within the government are just test beds for things on broader population. But wow, yeah, there is just so much to unpack with this DOGE stuff. I am sure that we will come back to it again at some point. If there's any stories we missed this week, let us know in the comments below. I'd love to hear it because there's just so much that they're unpacking. But again, thanks so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that bell icon so you can get notified when we put these episodes out every single Monday. And that's it for me. Don't forget to stay sovereign.